Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to another episode of the new member orientation series. And today we are going to discuss about how can we handle complex feedback scenarios. Now, there are situations in Toastmasters where we might encounter difficult evaluations, conflicts, and sometimes there might be a need of motivational communication. So, how do we handle such situations? So, just to remind all the members, like in Toastmaster promise is a oath which we take during the new member induction ceremony, and it's a set of 10 promises. So if you go through that promises, you will notice that there's a promise which says, uh, it the members are expected to maintain the club environment as positive and friendly in order to in order for the members to learn and grow. Of course, Toastmasters is always intended to have a positive environment, but there can be situations where members can have a rift. They might have some disagreements between some things. So in Toastmasters, we are learning how can we handle such conflicts. As I remember hearing one distinguished Toastmaster say, like in case if the organization does not have any conflict, then that means there is a problem with the organization. So it's good to have conflicts within an organization. So that is what we learn in Toastmasters. So let us see what are the scenarios and how can we deal with each scenario. So the first one is, when you're having a Toastmasters meeting, we have a session called evaluation session. So that's where a general evaluator steps in and his team of evaluators will be evaluating their respective speakers. Now, whenever the evaluation session happens, what all should we do? So when we have to now, whenever we receive a difficult feedback, when you realize that it's going to be a difficult feedback, what you need to do as a Toastmaster is you got to listen without interrupting the evaluators. That is number one thing. The second thing is you need to thank the evaluator for their input. Now, of course, they might sound harsh, they might sound a little forceful, but they are not doing that on purpose. That's how their nature is. And the feedback that they are providing, it could be something beneficial. So thank the evaluators so that feedback will be helpful in the future. Now, ask clarifying questions if needed. That is, in case if you feel that the evaluation is not clear, ask for clarification. And last one is, you decide which suggestions to use. Now I will tell you why. Because I remember when I was a member long time back in one prominent club, I remember a distinguished Toastmaster who happens to be a district director, past district director. He came to our club. He was a GE. He was a general evaluator, and he was headlining the evaluation session. Now, when he was conducting the evaluation session, the first sentence that he said was, "I am going to give you a feedback. Now, you can use the feedback if you think that it is suitable. Otherwise, you can just ignore it." That's what he said bluntly. Okay. So similarly, in case if you hear a feedback which might sound harsh, which is true in parts, but it's not true. In such situations, what you can do is you can choose the ones which you feel it is suitable, it is beneficial for you, and you can ignore the remaining ones. Okay. So this should be the attitude of a listener. Now, there are some don'ts also that we need to take care of. First of all, do not get defensive or make excuses. Okay, that is number one. Number two is that do not dismiss the feedback. Number three is don't take it personally. It's not a personal attack, it's just for the improvement of the Toastmasters. And then last one is don't argue or explain why you did what you did. Okay, so it's necessary that you should not have an argument. So your performance is done. So it's up to the so now it's the time for evaluator to evaluate and give you a feedback. So we just need to respect the evaluator on giving the feedback. So feedback is actually about the speech. So it is not about you as a person. So that is one thing that every evaluator has to remember. So you are actually going to evaluate the speech and not the person. Now the person might have so many qualities, but we need to respect the person's background and focus on his or her speech instead. Now, how can we handle conflict or misunderstanding? Now, in Toastmasters, conflicts or misunderstanding is quite rare. So whenever a conflict happens, you should be thankful, like you are getting an opportunity to learn how you can handle a conflict. So the first thing that you need to understand is, you need to do is stay calm, pause and breathe before responding. That is the first step that you need to do. Second thing is, you need to listen first. That is, whenever a person is talking, listen to him first and then understand from the other person's perspective. Maybe he might be right. The third one is, use I statements. Example, I felt concerned when, instead of you did this wrong. Instead of pointing fingers, you just say that what you felt instead from this particular situation. Focus on solutions. Ask, how can we move forward constructively? Like how are we supposed to move forward constructively? And the last step is, always involve a leader in order to mediate the entire process. Like in case if you need help, ask for the help of VP Education or the president so that your matter gets resolved. So conflict is normal between members and also in Toastmasters. So to handle it is professionally. You need to learn how to handle it professionally, and that is a leadership skill. Now, we need to know how to communicate in a motivational manner. So, we need to encourage each other effectively. So, the first step is acknowledge the efforts, not the results. So, sometimes the results might not be as expected. So, what you need to do is, you need to acknowledge the efforts. So, you could say that, in case if the person has put so much effort in speech, but he is not able to win the first three places in the speech contest, then you need to appreciate the efforts of the speaker. You could say that, I could see how much practice you put in that speech. The second thing is, be specific with praise. Your vocal variety in the second half was excellent. That is very important. Like instead of giving a vague the explanation, instead of giving a vague evaluation, vague feedback, be specific with this thing, what you exactly liked about the speech. Offer hope after setbacks. Now, there are situations where you might not achieve the necessary result. So, as an evaluator or as a leader, we need to offer them hope so that the speaker can get some motivation and confidence in order to move forward. And then we need to lead them with encouragement. In case if you are leading a team, you should believe in them, you should trust them, and move forward. Okay, so that is how a leader should behave. So encouragement builds confidence and strengthens the club. Now, when to ask for help? As a Toastmaster, one thing that you need to understand is, you don't need to handle everything alone. Okay, so there could be a situation where you are feeling upset about a feedback. So who you should contact? You can contact your mentor or the VP Education. That is number one. Second thing is, the second situation could be, you might have witnessed a conflict between members. So in such situations, what you have to do is, you have to contact the president or the VP Education. Now, there could be a situation where you are unsure on how to handle the situation. So in such cases, what you need to know is, you need to contact any club officer, and all of them are available to help. So always ask for help, so that you don't need to face this all alone. So club officers and mentors are here to support you, and do not hesitate to reach them out. So to summarize this video, there could be scenarios where you will be receiving difficult feedback. So we need to learn how to handle it. So we need to listen, thank, ask them questions in case if you need clarity, and don't take it personally. That is number one thing. Second thing is, regarding conflicts. If you are facing conflicts, stay calm, listen to them, and use I statements. That is, explain to them how you have felt it. Like, I have felt that this particular situation is quite complicated. You can say that from your perspective instead of pointing fingers at each other. And always focus on solution. That is, how can we solve this particular problem. The third point is encouraging others. Now, as a leader, we are supposed to encourage people so that they can achieve their objective. So be specific with what they have done well, acknowledge their efforts regardless of the results, and offer them hope. So Toastmasters is a supportive community. When in doubt, always ask a club officer or mentor for guidance. So with this, I conclude today's episode. So in case if you have any queries or clarification regarding this particular topic, please do post them in the chat box, and I will be happy to respond to each and every query. Thank you for listening, and I hope the video is clear, and see you all in the next episode.